Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Big Boys. I hope that it is your favorite time of the week here on the Pregame Show Network because I absolutely love it. We get to talk football, and we get to talk football with smart people and people that are just taking over the fashion world. Hence, Uncle Neely enters the chat. I mean, look at this dude, man. The public enemy number one.
Hey, I don't know how the thumbs down came up on that. That should be a thumbs up.
Look at Siri is hating. Siri, stop hating. Stop hating. But at least we did get Siri to get Coach Carl Reed to smile at the beginning of the show. So we got that business out of the way. Total thumbs up to Uncle Neely. Total thumbs up to the Pregame Show Network. And
you gotta love it.
Hey, man, I think that's Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is in the chat somewhere, man. He is still hating. He's still hating. We ain't doing it for clicks, Dan. We doing it for the people, baby.
He made it happen again.
Folks, I promise you, we have no control over this. This is not editing magic. This is not me doing anything. We literally, to show our age, don't know how or why it's happening. Get Alexis on the chat, Neely. We need your daughter here to explain this technology that is taking.
Hey, man, we are like good times. We are rolling live before a studio audience. We ain't got time to figure it out. Just keep going, JJ.
All right, Carl. If we got to get a thumbs down, man, I got to give a thumbs down to my mood at the end of that game because I thought Colorado had Arizona beat. Your immediate takeaway over the weekend of what happened and why it happened, Carl?
I thought we let one get away from us for sure. Controlled the game, most of the game. But it's like Coach Prime say, finishing, knowing how to close out games, had a drive there. We could have went up at the end of the game, gave the ball back to Arizona. They went back and scored. Offensive line looked a little better in terms of didn't give up as many sacks, didn't give up as much pressures. So they're starting to play really good complementary football. But when games are there to be won, you got to find a way to win them.
That's spot on again, Coach Carl Reed. You know, one of the issues that this team has is just being able to finish. And I want to clarify, Coach Reed and Tolly, and to the audience out there, when I say this team needs to learn how to finish, I'm also talking about the coaching staff. There is a coaching dynamic to this piece as well. It's not just execution by the players. It's understanding whether it's clock management, game time situations, how do you erode the clock so the other opponent does not have a chance to do the things that happens. So it's not just on a Jimmy Horn or a Zay Weaver dropping a pass. It's on the coordinators and position coaches as well to learn how to win, learn how to finish. This was a game that you were up all the way until they took the lead with 2 seconds left as time went off the clock. Very winnable game. You had the game in hand. You know, Carl, when this season started, I penciled this team in as a 6-win season. Had the 4 that we got, but I also had us with Stanford and this Arizona game, and we dropped those 2. 2 games left now. Get those 2, you go to a bowl game, but they're on the road and tough. You should not have let this one get away from you.
You know, I'm still hoping for this Disney vibe movie where it gets to the point where people are like, oh, man, let's just throw the towel in. And then the last 2 weeks, the team really comes to life and hits on all cylinders. That is still to be determined what will happen. I'll tell you something that's going to happen on this show. Before we get out of here, we're going to get a special personalized. I'm not talking about clips from a press conference. I'm talking about Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, is going to speak directly, no matter what Siri says, is going to speak directly to our audience here with a personal message for you watching the Big Boys. So stick around for that.
That guy right there.
Yes.
That guy right there has a message for the pregame show audience.
It looked wet, but it was dry for sure.
Absolutely.
Carl, I'm interested, before we jump back into the conversation, Carl, what was the craziest hairstyle you had in your life, man? I had a high top fade early 90s, late 80s. What was your craziest hairstyle, Carl?
Man, I used to have cornrows, man, and a gold grill, man, when I was young, man. My father saw it, man, and he wanted to pull each braid out of my head one by one. And then one time I tried a Hawaiian, I put one of them Hawaiian silky kits
Oh man,
In
you
my
was laid.
head, man. Oh man, I was laid, fried, dyed, and laid to the side. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So,
Carl was
yeah,
out in them streets, baby.
yeah,
St. Louis.
many years ago, man.
Hey,
St. Louis in the house for life.
I bet you what? I bet you this, man. Feinbaum is having a dream of you with those gold fronts and those cornrows, man. He's going to sleep thinking about that. Carl Reed has been everywhere since you last saw him on the Big Boys. All right, let's get back to the game. Carl, let's talk about some good things. You talked about the offensive line. Let's take a deeper dive there. What was it schematically, or was it just effort? Was it just manning up? I don't know. You tell me. What happened with those guys that
They got Shador. They moved the pocket a little bit. They played with some tight ends and H's a little bit more. They got quicker passes out. Shador got the ball out quicker in certain situations. They ran some plays that got the ball out. So there was definitely some schematic things. And also the defense got Arizona off the field quickly on a few things. And so when you're playing complementary football, it helps both sides.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with it, man. I think you saw the results of two or three things. One, first and foremost, complementary football. I talked to Coach Prime about that at the half as we walked into the field house. This was one of the first games, particularly in that first quarter, first part of the second quarter, where special teams put the team in an advantage, offense put the team in an advantage, and defense put the team in an advantage. When that translated to also Coach Shermer having one more additional week of his installs and play calling, you saw a difference there. But the effort in my mind goes to the two tackles, Big Tank on the left and Savion on the right. I think their effort also made a difference to help when you had different personnel groups in. And of course, Shador did get the ball out of his hand quicker. But the offensive line, man, I think statistically it was 3 sacks, but one of those was an intentional grounding. So to go from 8 sacks in a game to 2 sacks, I tell you what, guys, if they can do that the next 2 weeks, you still got a chance at a bowl game if you keep Shador Sanders standing upright.
Absolutely you do, Neely. Absolutely you do. And even going into these last 2 games, you got Shador Sanders playing quarterback. You have a puncher's chance to win any of those games if you can keep him protected and allow him to operate.
Were there some things, were some of the, whatever differences we saw in play calling, were those beneficial? Did anything make it easier for the offensive line? I guess is what I'm trying to get to here.
I think the slowing the tempo down some, not playing as helter-skelter and running as many plays, not only helps the offense, it helps the defense too. So controlling the football a little bit more and kind of the pace that you play at. Because when you play at that helter-skelter, you running 80, 90 plays a game, it looks good in certain situations, but in other times, especially when you get into the colder part of the season, it can hurt you a little bit.
Yeah, the more plays the offense runs, the more plays the defense is going to run because they're going to be out there faster should you have that success. One of the best conditioned offensive linemen here in Colorado, Tyler Brown, is not playing. The other guys out there, even through this season, don't have the mechanics that a Tyler Brown have. So it wears down on them, and that wears down their performance. I think what Coach Shermer did some installs and some things like, hey, take your time coming out the huddle. Take your time going to the next play. Watch the clock, milk the clock. Use it to your advantage. And don't worry about that maybe the defense is getting a break as well, because if we execute the play, it doesn't matter. We're going to move down the field. So I agree with Carl reading that. I think that getting away from that tempo that Sean Lewis brought from Kent State has aided in the performance of the offensive line going into 2 weeks with Coach Shermer.
Neely, this might be you might have more insight. Was that an ego check thing? Was that a hard decision to say, look, man, I know all season long we wanted to be this up-tempo, fast team. We got to slow it down a bit. Was that a hard decision to make, you think, for the staff?
I'm not sure about the staff. Easy decision for Coach Prime to make, the head coach. He is one who does not shy away from changes. We were winning big at Jackson State. He changed coordinators and changed offense philosophies when he saw meat being left on the bone. If there was any surprise, this one probably took a little longer into the season. If you know Coach Prime than you would have thought. But I think every coach on this staff, ego-wise, wants to win. And whether it is going away from their system, getting them to win, who doesn't want a bowl game their first year taking over 1-11 program? So I didn't see any kind of infighting or backbiting or that kind of thing. If it gets the job done, get the job done. And I will say this, Coach Reed, what other choice did you have? What you were doing was not working. You were getting into the fourth quarter of the season. You have to try something different if you want to go out with this season above 500 or at 500.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So it was important to make some type of adjustment because everybody wants to win. Everybody gets paid to win. There's an expectation of winning in any situation that you're in. So, Tolly, no, it wasn't a surprise to me that some adjustments had to be made. And whether the coaching staff is on board with it or not, the direction of the head coach is ultimately what everybody has to go with. And if you can't get on board with the head coach, we all know what happens after that.
And Carl, let me throw a log on that fire, man. I think that what aids in that situation here in Colorado is Coach Prime has hired so many guys that have been head coaches, and they understand that the top dog is we're going to go the way he says go, because they remember when they were the top dog, or if they want to be a top dog again somewhere else. So having personalities, but also having resume experience of who's ultimately in charge of this team, because Coach Prime will tell you whatever happens in this team is ultimately on me because I'm the head coach. So we're gonna go the way I say go, because we're gonna leave with those results, because only two people are gonna get blamed for this, and their both last name are Sanders. That's the head coach and the quarterback.
All right, guys, part of my job is just to ask these kind of very basic questions because not everybody understands, and sometimes the loudest people are the wrongest people, loud and wrong. People sometimes expect Deion Sanders to be out there like scripting up these Super Bowl plays and like just doing everything. Neely, can you just give us like just a very basic, like on a game day, like the job, the responsibility, the role that Coach Prime plays?
Well, I appreciate the question, Tyler, but it really starts before game day because Coach Prime is involved in the defense and offensive rooms. He is with those coordinators, looking over the shoulder, listening to what's going on, and chiming in and correcting things that he sees needs correcting. At practice, for instance, if he sees like a deficiency in the defense, he will stop Charles Kelly and say, hey, slow it down. Let's walk through the play. Now, why is this space on the field open or not being guarded? And they fix it. So he's highly involved. On game day, he's listening to what the coordinators are calling and listening to and watching the results of it, and then offering his advice and counsel on what to fix, what didn't work, including the speed of play, the scheme, or personnel. Highly involved in the personnel. Like he will get to a point of, say, even frustration and say, hey, Tolly Card needs to be on the field. Like get him out there. Because sometimes in play calling, whether it's defense or offense, the scheme will override the personnel and you will lose sight of, hey, why is my best person not on the field more? Outside of a Travis Hunter, he's playing both ways and playing every snap that he can. But Coach Prime is highly involved in this thing. And from a listening standpoint during the game, and that's why he's so passionate and frustrated about it, because he hears what's happening or not happening. And believe me, it is getting fixed internally, even though you may not hear him say it during press conferences.
The head coach's job, Charlie, is to manage and be the CEO of the program. That's through practice. That's through games. That's through approving the schemes that you're going to run offensively, defensively, deciding on who the personnel is. But football, unlike every other sport, is super dependent on the assistant coaches, the position coaches, the coordinators who have to manage their groups. It's 160 guys. One guy can't coach all 160. That's why the staff cohesion and the guys you put in place to oversee those things, they have to be great CEOs of their own positions in their own rooms. Most head coaches don't call plays. Nick Saban does not call plays. Urban Meyer did not call plays. Dabo Swinney does not call plays. Probably the last big-time winning head coach that called plays was Steve Spurrier, going back all the way to the old Florida regime. So when you're watching a football game and you see a breakdown in certain situations, a lot of times the head coach is dependent on whoever he has coaching that particular phase of the game, and you can only really address it by two things. The first thing is with recruiting. The second thing is with adjustments to the staff. And those are more off-season moves. So as you go through the season, You try to adjust, you try to correct things. If you're bleeding in a certain area, you do whatever you can to put a Band-Aid on it and stop the bleeding and make some adjustments. But you are limited sometimes in certain ways based on what you have going on at the moment. And it takes a long time to build a football program. It's not an overnight thing.
And if you guys would afford me 15 seconds here, because we are a big family, as we talk and discuss here on this episode of The Big Boys, I'm keeping one eye on my phone. My wife, Neely, is speaking at the 2023 Democracy Summit in Washington, D.C. It's a really big deal. She's been nervous and excited. So shout out to my wife, Nicole Carr, doing big things this morning. I am the least talented person in my household, in case anyone ever doubted any of that. We did see some talent on special teams. Carl, we saw some good returns that set up really good field position, and the Buffs over the weekend were really able to capitalize on that.
Well, you got some dynamic skill guys, and so anytime that you can catch the ball clean and get some of those guys a crease on space, it's definitely a weapon that you can use. And if you can make game-changing plays in special teams, it gives you an opportunity to play better football, to have better offensive position, to have better field position defensively. So special teams moments are huge, and there's plenty of guys around there that if they get their hands on a kick can make something happen.
And speaking of kicking, Coach Reed, man, hats off to Mark Vassett, who Coach Prime calls mate from Australia. Had he not proved it in the preseason, which he did, and throughout this season, which he did, he certainly proved it this past weekend that he deserves to play on Sundays. That brother put so many punts inside the 5-yard line, man, that really helped flip that field position you're talking about. Because when the defense would stop them from going down the field, now they have to punt, and we're starting on the, at worst, our 40, maybe even the 50. And it's a direct result of the punting advantage that we had in that game, man. So you're spot on, Tolly, man. The special teams was finally special, from not only receiving the ball, returning the ball, not turning over the ball, but as well as, those punts. I know we had a missed field goal, if you will, from Alejandro Mata, who Coach Prime is calling he don't miss. But one of the deeper dives into that, due to that miss, was that Jace Feely, that was more his hash and distance. But Jace Feely was out of the game with an injury and wasn't available for that particular position on the field.
Neely, you talked about that. Jace on special teams. You told me that earlier on the Rewind this week, and then I thought about it. Is he normally out there trying to tackle people?
He has the body of a linebacker, and he is a football player. Excuse me, and he doesn't mind playing football. So when it comes down to if he's the guy that has to make the tackle or make sure that they don't break it out, then he's going to do it. It just happened that he got a little banged in the head there when he did and had to come out of the game. And later on in the game, you saw that impact the field goal game. But he normally goes for it, man. He's out there with 10 other guys. He's 1 in 11, and football is about blocking and tackling. And Jace Feely doesn't mind tackling.
All right, good information there. All right, we talked about a lot of the positive things here. Carl, let's talk about some things that just went awry. Was it let me visualize that game on the screen. The right side of the offensive line for Arizona opened up some holes, and it seems like, man, there were about 4 or 5 just huge runs that were backbreakers with that Arizona run game.
If a team can run the ball on you, it can become demoralizing to you as a defense, and it becomes a real easy way for them to score. And so they found a sweet spot there for Arizona on the offensive line where they created some openings and came downhill and did some things, and that definitely hurt Colorado from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, I had to just take a step back, Coach Carl Reed, and look at the other side of that coin. Can't take anything away from that dynamic running back, man. He had some fantastic runs, and they dialed up some wonderful schemes. But here's the positive what I saw, Tolly, and Coach Reed. It lets you know that Coach Charles Kelly's defense is working. We just got to execute. We were in position to make tackles. We got hands on the guy. You just didn't bring him down. As I just said about the kicking game, football is still going to be about blocking and tackling. You got to make tackles. So here you have a guy who is getting contact at the line of scrimmage or even on their side, getting contact at the linebacker level, but just didn't make the tackle and bring him down. And then he's 40 yards up the field. What you don't want to happen is a guy going 40 yards up the field untouched, because you're in the wrong scheme and you're doing the wrong things. But when you have your defense in the position to make contact with the ball carrier and they just don't wrap up and bring them down, then that's something you can fix at practice. It's not that they were in the wrong spot. They just didn't make the right tackle.
Yeah, I think Siri's an Arizona fan because she gave thumbs down on that entire tape. She was like, "Shut up, Neely." Carl, let's jump back into something positive, and we have seen this week in and week out. And Travis Hunter is so dynamic, man. The games that are played in a matter of seconds, and there was one possession. It might have been that third down that ended up roughing the passer and gave them the ball back on first down, and they scored. But they're deep in their own territory there. And Travis Hunter, man, he's playing man, he's playing zone. He's playing man, he's playing zone. And his eyes are shifting between receiver, ball, other receiver over here out of my peripheral vision. And he guarded two people when the play, and you can explain it more, the man was trying to take Travis out of the play. He's going to the corner, and Travis was like, I got this whole side of the field covered, and he made the play.
Football is a numbers game. So when you go through your scheme offensively and defensively, you're looking at how can I take advantage of the numbers. But great players change the numbers. And so when you have a great player who can control the whole side, who can go between zone and man, it gives you basically an extra man on the field, and it controls the game. Just like when Coach Prime played, he could guard one side of the field himself. So it changes the numbers and allows you to put other people in other places. You can commit more people to the run. You might can double another guy somewhere else because you do have a guy that changes the numbers on his side of the ball. And if you have a guy like that in the secondary, a guy like that on the D-line, a guy like that at linebacker, wherever you have that type of guy, it allows you to employ other people other places.
You know, spot on again, Coach Carl Reed. When Travis Hunter is out there, as you just articulated, you go from 11 men on the field to 12, where here's something that the world needs to also appreciate about Travis Hunter, and that's his football IQ and how smart he is on the field, because he realized in that situation there was a 13th man, and that was the boundary. So this receiver that was trying to pull him to the corner ain't got that much more space to go to, and it would take a perfect pass from the QB to get it. So now with the boundary helping me, I can cheat and go get this other guy as well and break this pass up and almost get a pickoff. And so shout out to Travis to not only his physical acumen, but his smarts of the game to say, hey, I don't have to take this guy all the way to the pylon. The out of bounds lines is going to do that for me. Let me cheat back and go into the zone mode that Tolly articulated and go get this ball. Why they keep testing him, I don't know, but I love when they do.
Carl, what do you think is going through the quarterback's mind in this eye duel with Travis? Because the quarterback is looking at one receiver, is like, he's like, all right, so I should have this guy. And then he looks there and he's like, and it's just this back and forth.
He's trying to make a play, but he also understands that you don't want to throw an interception right here. And so it's a confusing situation from the quarterback because you got to make a throw without throwing a pick, and the pressure's coming, so you don't want to get sacked. So at that point, you're just going with what you think your best option is.
Yeah, because Coach Carl Reed had the quarterback put that ball where it was supposed to be, which was to the right shoulder receiver. Travis absolutely gets it. So he had to try to throw it behind him to give his receiver more of a chance to get it, and where Travis would have to dive for it, and Travis still got a hand on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is amazing, amazing stuff to watch there. All right, guys, let's talk about the thing that just really got under my skin, and that was the penalties. Carl, I knew on that when Colorado seemingly held Arizona to that field goal, and then you get a roughing the passer that gives them first and goal, right there at the 1 or 2 yard line. Like, those are things, man, that has to be demoralizing because you're like, we did what we were supposed to do, and then we just give it away.
You have to be disciplined, and you have to care more about the team than you care about yourself. Whatever you want to do to make that tackle or make that play, you got to think about the team first. And a lot of times penalties are mental errors more so than physical errors. And you just have to understand that you can't do that in that situation.
Yeah, you're spot on, man. One of the things that Coach Prime says to this team, if you're lacking discipline off the field, it's going to show up on the field. And we don't mean like going to a party and drinking or staying out past curfew. I mean the discipline of being in meetings on time, the discipline of watching film to the level that you're supposed to do that week. Just the little things at practice are going to show up in the game. And so you're exactly right, Carl Reed. It's a discipline issue. But my concern is also on the consistency of the calls or lack thereof from the Pac-12 officials this past weekend. Tried to bait Coach Prime into talking about it at the halftime chat. Said, hey, there was some questionable calls out there that could have gone other ways. And he just said it is what it is, because he's never one to beat up the officials. He recognized they have a tough job, and he doesn't criticize them, let alone over-criticize them. But I'll take the opportunity to do it. One thing I'm looking for in calls, Coach Reed, is just be consistent. If it's pass interference on that side, let that same standard be on the other. And I saw plays where Travis Hunter made a dynamic break on the ball, didn't even touch the receiver, got flagged. And then on this side, I see Zay Weaver getting held all the way down the field, and then there's no flag. So you just want to be consistent so the players know how to play the game. Those not pass interference, those roughing the passer calls definitely had an impact in scoring drives. And there was some that was just totally missed on Deion Sanders. When he got nailed well after the play and you saw no flag on it. So I think they got to go back to the film room, the officials, and look at how they can be more consistent in what they're calling and why. And I don't care about that thumbs down from Siri.
She's killing you. She is absolutely killing you.
Bring it, Siri. I can take it.
Somewhere there's like a 15-year-old. They're like, these dummies. All they got to do is click, 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 do that. It'll be off the screen. All right, let's push forward, guys. Friday night, Neely? Friday night game, so here's the dynamic with this Friday night, Coach Reed. Short week. Not only is it short because you're playing on Friday, it's even shorter because you got to travel to Pullman, Washington. It's going to be cold. It's going to be dreary, probably even raining at some point in the game. So short week preparation-wise, but you're facing a team with the same record as you have, a team that you can win this game on the road. And what Coach Prime is preaching is we're not talking about a bowl game. We're talking about going 1-0 each week because you can't get 2 if you don't get 1. So they're totally focused on this short week on going up to Pullman, Washington, and getting out with a win.
If you find a way to win in Pullman, you would go into the last game of the year at Utah with an opportunity to go to a bowl game. It could end up, if you find a way to take care of business, being one of the truly special stories in college football this season.
I've always said, Coach Reed, that this team, I said it before the Arizona game, this team can easily go 0-3 closing it out or easily go 3-0. It just depends on how they show up and how they manage the game as far as learning how to finish. We have proven we can score. This arrow is absolutely pointing up. We can't, just get down and say, hey, can't believe we only got 4 wins. Well, that's 4 wins over 1 win. That's a 400% increase. But get this. You were playing number 12 in the nation, and up into 2 seconds, we're winning the game. So you have what it takes to compete and win against these ranked opponents, even on the road. You just got to finish the games.
All right, we got a special message from Coach Prime. It's just minutes away. It is tailored just for you. Not generic stuff, not something we ripped off the internet. This is a special message just for viewers of the Pregame Show Network. But before we get to that, let's talk a little weather. Neely, how's Texas this time of the year? You.
Hey, Siri, I see the thumbs down. Man, Coach Reed, better than anybody how fickle this coaching market can be and what is taking place in the landscape with the firing of Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M and that astronomical buyout that eclipsed any other buyouts that are currently on the table. I tell you this, Tolly, we have said it before on the Big Boys. Coach Carl Reed ran with it. Coach Prime is here in Colorado. He is finishing this season and looking forward to next. Going to be Shadour's last season and hopefully his Heisman campaign run. I don't know what is going to take place in the future down the road, but I do know this. That market, man, has been reset, even for coaches who haven't performed at $100 million. Deion Sanders is going to be a $100 million kind of coach, and we'll see what happens years down the road. But right now he's focused on Colorado. But there's going to be an opportunity for somebody at Texas A&M, man.
Money talks and BS runs a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so Texas A&M has a lot of money. So whoever they go after, whoever they decide to open that checkbook up for is going to have a serious decision to make.
Well, I kind of started this part of the conversation in jest, but Neely, one of the things that we love to do, especially on the Rewind, is take people back through time and say, hey, these set of circumstances happened at Jackson State. We can project, the same set of circumstances you might experience at Colorado. And one thing that Jackson State fans had to live with was, after that first year, they realized everybody wanted their coach. And their coach came up in searching queries and media posts, and people are tracking flights. And look, Coach Prime can show up anywhere, anytime. He is a busy man. He does commercials. He has lots of networking and relationships. So, where he hops off a plane, who knows? And who knows what it's about. But that's part of the Deion Sanders experience, is that other people are going to want your coach.
And here's part of the institutional experience that colleges, specifically Colorado, can learn from a Jackson State. At no time during that process did Jackson State offer or put on the table an extension for Coach Prime, which signaled around the world, particularly in the AD and booster market, that, hey, that guy's available. He may be currently in a job, but he's available because he hasn't signed an extension. And so I would think that if you really don't want a Deion Sanders considering other things, in the next year or two, because here's what's going to happen. Next year, somebody at a football school is going to get fired. Here's what's going to happen the year after that. Somebody at the football school is going to get fired. So as you said, Tolly, this rumor mill of where Coach Prime is going to go or really go is going to continue. But you can solve that at Colorado by saying, hey, we want you here, and here's how much we want you here.
Neely, I couldn't have said it better myself. This is a business. And regardless of how anybody feels, when you get your feelings involved in business, it never goes well. There's no loyalty on either side. And that's at any school with any coaching hire. As a coach, you just renting the whistle. You don't own it. As a school, you just renting your coach. You don't own them. The business has to always make sense.
Well, Coach Prime does have a gold whistle, for what that's worth. Neely, here's something that I thought about, and I don't know if it's an interesting conversation or it just is what it is, and there's not a lot to think about, but I was thinking Deion Sanders might be the only coach at the Power 5 level that his reputation is never going to be, like, the top thing on his resume is not going to be he coaches at that school. Kirby Smart's a great coach. When you think of Kirby Smart, you think he's the head football coach at Georgia. That's what you're always going to remember him for. Nick Saban, head coach at Alabama. Dabo Swinney, head coach at Clemson. They did other things, but that's their identity. Coach Prime's identity is himself, and that's a unique position, and I don't know if that impacts or, what that means, but I just thought he is such a unicorn in that regard.
Absolutely is, man. Here you're talking about one, as we've said ad nauseum, the only coach in America with a gold jacket. So that puts him in a league of his own. And he is Deion Sanders. He is Coach Prime. He is Prime Time. He is Neon Deion, whatever name you want to come up with from his glorious past, present, and future. He literally is a worldwide known person. And his impact on college football shows that. And so you're not just hiring a football coach. You're hiring a brand. You're hiring a brand that's bigger than your brand. You're trying to associate yourself with his brand because he pulls you up. A lot of these schools were founded in 18 whatever, and they're still not bigger than a Deion Sanders who was just founded 56 years ago. He has done more in his 56 years than some colleges have done in almost 200 years. You have to recognize he's the bigger brand. He's the bigger piece of the puzzle. How do we get on his wave and get some things done that we couldn't normally do without him or just a quote unquote regular coach? So you're exactly right, Tolly. You got to check your ego. You got to be a little humble when he's part of your team on campus because he's going to be bigger than any administration in your past or in your present. And he is Deion Sanders, man. He is literally known around the world, and he's bigger than just coaching college football. He is about his impact on and off the field, and he always migrates to places that give him the most impact in reaching people beyond football.
He's going to add so much value to any situation he's in that much supersedes what goes on the field. The amount of viewers that watch games, the amount of merchandise being sold. Like Neely said, he's a brand. His brand is going to be bigger than the school, and that definitely adds into the dynamic of schools and opportunities that he'll have in the future.
Look, I'll leave this to people in the comments. I'm sure there's more names than I can think of off the top of my head. But if you think about, sports and entertainment, fields that require you to be relevant because of what you have done or what you're doing, not the Queen of England where you just get the title and you just sit there no matter what you do. How many people can you name off the top of your head that have been relevant? I mean, relevant since 1985. I mean, it's like Deion Sanders, Eddie Murphy, Michael Jordan. And I don't know, there's probably some more people, but that is a short list, man, and that's a long time.
Holly, my first guest on the pregame show was Troy Aikman, Super Bowl winning Troy Aikman. And he said to me, man, the thing about my friend Deion Sanders, he was at a game at Jackson State, and he said, why I had to come see him his first coaching game is, I don't know how he's done it, but we all played. We all won Super Bowls. We all won MVPs and that kind of thing. But he has not only maintained a relevance, he has reached a relevance higher than when we were playing. Myself, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, we can walk in stores and we can kind of migrate around the atmosphere and nobody bothers us. He said, but Deion Sanders has found a way to be bigger now than he was when his playing days. And it's amazing to behold. And, the friendship that they have with players and coaches around the world is just something that he utilizes, man. And there's no one like him. As you said, Tolly, he is a unicorn.
Wow, that is so amazing. Well, we have talked about the man. Let's hear from the man. Special message just for you. Here is Coach Prime.
Got you, my brother. Well, I appreciate you, man.
Oh, man, appreciate you. All the same.
How many viewers we at now?
We're up to 100,000 subscribers. Well, we're over 100,000.
Okay, well, we got let's try to bump this thing up to 121. I love that number 21 for some reason. So if you know anybody out there that would enjoy this wonderful, truthful, wholehearted, it's an ethics show, not just ethic, it's entertaining and informative as well. Please, it could be the homie, the friend, even your kids, go ahead and subscribe, please, immediately, so we can get to 121 like real quick. Then after that, we gonna set another goal, but that's the goal for, you think we can do it in I think we can do it in 2 weeks. I think we can get to 121 in 2 weeks. Let's get to 121 in 2 weeks. Okay, I tell you what. If you get Bishop Deacon Brother Neely to 121 in 2 weeks, 3 at the most, let's say 2 weeks, how do they do it? How do they reach you?
Comments, like,
okay, share. You get in the comments, and you tell me what you want to discuss, and we will, matter of fact, FaceTime you and put you on, and you guys do anything you want. Or I'll go on and respond to your questions for 21 minutes. How about that?
That's a deal.
Is that a deal, y'all? I saw somebody like, yeah, dog.
Neely, you have so much pull. I just brag to my family. Sometimes my kids or other people who don't really know, they're like, do you know Deion Sanders? I was like, not really, kind of, but I know Neely. And that is enough. Neely, you have Coach Prime here saying if we get, 21,000?
21,000 more. That he's going to sit down and do 21 minutes with Coach Prime where he takes live Q&A from the audience and even brings you on the screen with him. So, he did that as he and I concluded, an interview together.
He did that and he scared the hell out of Neely. Because Neely was afraid he was going to answer everything.
Hey, man, have no idea what he's going to throw at you. And he did that just, in the moment, in the spirit. And it just shows, the relationship capital and the blessing that he has been, to the pregame show and to myself for him to say, like, hey, no, man, I like that you're at 100,000, but I like the number 21 better. Let's get to 121. And we're going to do this special, broadcast. And not only just do it one time, but every time we reach a goal, we're going to keep on doing it.
And let me clarify. It wasn't Coach Prime that scared Neely. Neely saw the questions that were coming.
Oh, yeah.
And Neely was like, Coach Prime might answer all of these questions. Let me choose.
Oh, he will. He will. He does not shy. Even when he does speaking engagements for corporate America, he doesn't write a speech and he doesn't give a speech. It's a live Q&A, and there are no questions that are barred. He prefers it that way.
Yes. So this will be unlike anything you have seen. So do your job, all right? I know there are people. I know there are 21,000 people right now who come to the Pregame Show Network every week. You just haven't subscribed. You just know where to come. So all you got to do is click the button, and we're going to bring you Coach Prime live Q&A right here. So do your job. That's how football works. Do your job.
Yeah, do your job.
Do your job. Guys, thank you so much. Coach Carl, we gotta see some photos, man. You got to dig up the cornrows, the Hawaiian silky, and especially.
No, I'm never putting that on there. Hey, that's never making its way online, man. They'll be making memes of me and all kind of stuff. That's never making its way online.
Well,
hey, that is a good call because once it's online forever.
Yeah, so I'm good. I'm good.
Keep it in that drawer at the house.
Look, we got AI. I'm going to just sit down and ask Siri, can you draw what Carl Reed might have looked like?
No, man. No, sir.
Hey, Tolly, Siri has done enough today.
She has. Siri gets a flag. We're just going to throw the flag on Siri, man, because she has doing too much, Siri. Just sit back and enjoy.
Man, what all do you have on your desk down there? You just throwing up rolls of tape?
Ooh, brothers, let me tell you. The camera shot stops, right about here. I will take my phone and we do slight editing to the show. We don't take out anything we said. I just put the graphics and stuff. Let me take a picture and then I'll post it in the. Dude, I got football helmets. I got a drill over here. I got some pliers that I haven't even opened yet. I got my car keys. I got a clipboard. I got an extension cord. My grandma used to whip my behind with an extension cord. This gives me flashbacks. Right.
I'm gonna age us when I say this. You're looking like Captain Caveman when he could reach in and just pull out anything out his fur.
No, I'm like we had the Good Times reference. I'm like Sweet Lenny, man. I open this thing up and you might have anything for sale. I open my coat up. It's like a Home Depot in here, man. I got extension cords, drills, drill bits, you name it, man. Me and you were talking about the SWAC and trying to figure out the Celebration Bowl. I did some more content. I got other school flags just hanging out in front of me.
Man, Alcorn gave up the ghost, didn't
they? They told Alcorn the game was on Saturday or Monday. They did not tell Alcorn the game was on Sunday.
Oh man.
No, but shout out Texas Southern. They came together at the right time. But it's an exciting time in college football, man, and we are enjoying it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next week. Get ready for the Thanksgiving edition of the Big Boys. I might just have a roaster, George Foreman on the set next week. But whatever it is, we will see you there. I'm Tolly Carr in Atlanta, Uncle Neely, Coach Carl, 24/7 Sports College Analyst. We'll see you guys later.